Hello, welcome to our RecapPlus channel with me, Matthew. Today we will watch a recap movie called The Crooked House, released in 2017. This is a spoiler content video. So please turn on the subtitle and let's start the story. The tale commences with the demise of a wealthy man named Ari Steed. It is reported that Ari Steed, aged 85, passed away as a result of having eye drops injected into his body instead of insulin. Some consider it an accident, while others label it as murder. Ari Steed, a man of considerable wealth, was known for his inclination to exert control over others. In the ensuing scene, we encounter Charles, a highly skilled detective. Sophia, Ari Steed's granddaughter, visits Charles in his office. She expresses her belief that her grandfather was murdered and that the perpetrator is within the family. Seeking the truth, Sophia wishes to hire Charles. However, he declines the offer due to his past romantic involvement with Sophia, unaware at the time of her relationship with Ari Steed. Charles discovered this connection when the government tasked him with spying on her, an order he refused, leading to his departure from the job. Despite their subsequent breakup, Charles initially rejects the case. Following Charles's refusal, his maid persuades him to reconsider, citing the potential for widespread publicity and additional cases. Charles agrees and consults a friend in the police department, gathering all available details on the case. Limited information is accessible, as the influential family has prevented police involvement and the issuance of a search warrant. Charles then visits Ari Steed's mansion, encountering Edith, Ari Steed's sister-in-law, who had arrived to care for the children after her sister's death. Edith and Ari Steed had a strained relationship due to their incompatibility. Subsequently, Charles meets Josephine, Sophia's younger sister, a clever eavesdropper who meticulously records observations in her diary. Josephine, who fancies herself as Sherlock Holmes, also keeps watch from her treehouse. Charles proceeds to Ari Steed's office, where the deceased was discovered. Sophia informs Charles that Ari Steed has a disdain for everyone in the family except her. During Charles's visit to the bathroom, he discovers both the insulin and eye drops. It becomes apparent that eye drops were introduced into the insulin bottle, leading to Ari Steed inadvertently injecting himself with a harmful concoction. Charles initiates the investigation. He questions Magda, Sophia's arrogant mother, who is an unsuccessful actress. Her husband, Philip, a failed writer, wrote a play for Magda, but Ari Steed refused to invest in it. Charles then confronts Philip, an extremely rude individual with a troubled history, having lost his wealth in poker 3 years prior. Clemency, the wife of Ari Steed's other son, Roger, a plant studies professor, is next on Charles's list. When Roger arrives, he accuses his father's second wife, Brenda, of the murder, alleging her to be a gold digger. Roger, a business failure, claims Brenda is responsible for Ari Steed's death. Charles also meets Mr. Brown, the tutor for Philip's children. Finally, he encounters Brenda, Ari Steed's second wife, and a former dancer. As the person who administered the last insulin injection, suspicion falls on Brenda. Many believe she added eye drops to the insulin to secure Ari Steed's wealth, but Brenda vehemently denies the accusations. Charles consults Mr. Brown, who reveals that on the night of Ari Steed's death, he was with him. Roger and Philip separately visited their father, engaging in heated arguments. Philip presented his script, summarily rejected by Ari Steed without reading, while Roger, facing financial losses, sought money from his father. Returning home, Charles finds Sophia waiting and they spend quality time together. In the subsequent scene, Charles meets Ari Steed's lawyer, who discloses the existence of a will signed by Ari Steed in the presence of witnesses. Upon examining the will, Charles discovers it lacks a signature. Without the signature, the entire estate of Mr. Ari Steed legally belongs to Brenda. Charles then visits Roger's office and accuses him of killing his father over denied business funds. Roger counters by presenting a check for $2 million, signed by Ari Steed, claiming he received the money on the night of the alleged murder. Roger reveals that his wife Clemency, tired of the mansion's environment, refused money from Ari Steed to avoid being stuck there, tearing the check in front of Charles. Considering Clemency as a potential suspect due to her discontent, Charles returns to the mansion and consults Josephine. She reveals an affair between Brenda and Mr. Brown. Sophia, already aware of the unsigned will, informs Charles about the affair, disclosing that Ari Steed hired Mr. Brown to keep Brenda happy. Charles leaves but pretends his car won't start, choosing to stay and observe. At dinner, accusations fly among the family members. Charles later witnesses Mr. Brown and Brenda together from the treehouse, where he is confronted by barking dogs upon descending. The next day, Charles, covered in cuts, feigns car trouble to continue his analysis. In the following scene, another lawyer claims to possess a signed will by Ari Steed, declaring Sophia as the rightful heir to his entire estate. Charles is present as the lawyer unveils this second will. He receives a call and rushes to the mansion, learning that someone cut the treehouse rope, causing Josephine to fall and sustain serious injuries. The lawyer arrives and reads the will aloud to everyone. Upon hearing the contents of the second will, everyone reacts with dismay, except for Clemency, who nonchalantly declares her indifference, asserting that she planned to leave anyway. Roger and Clemency congratulate Sophia and leave. Charles, however, starts considering Sophia as a suspect, as she had prior knowledge of the second will but chose not to disclose it, assuming Ari Steed might have been playing a joke. When Charles expresses his doubts, Sophia becomes angry. Charles investigates Mr. Brown's room and discovers a cutter capable of severing the treehouse rope. He also finds numerous letters written to Brenda by Mr. Brown. These findings lead Charles to suspect Brenda and Brown of Ari Steed's murder, believing Josephine knew and was targeted as well. However, Charles remains dissatisfied, sensing a loophole and considering the possibility of Brenda and Brown being framed. Upon learning that the mansion nanny died after drinking hot chocolate intended for Josephine, Charles becomes suspicious of Sophia, who delivered the beverage. Josephine did not consume it, raising further questions about Sophia's involvement. Charles questions Josephine about the threats against her life, but she remains silent and mentions losing her diary since returning from the hospital. Edith intervenes, claiming Charles has asked enough questions, and takes Josephine for ice cream. Later, a doctor reveals the nanny was poisoned with cyanide, and Charles recalls Edith being the sole possessor of cyanide in the house. Investigating Edith's residence, Charles finds cyanide and Josephine's missing diary lying in the limestone. In a rush, Charles encounters Sophia and inquires about Josephine, learning Edith took her out. Charles brings Sophia along as they search for Edith's car. Finally, Charles hands Josephine's diary to Sophia, urging her to read it aloud. As Sophia continues reading from Josephine's diary, it reveals Josephine's deep-seated boredom and resentment toward Ari Steed for rejecting her dreams of becoming a belly dancer, citing her perceived lack of beauty. Josephine expresses anger and a desire for Ari Steed's punishment, revealing her role in his death by replacing insulin with eye drops. The diary entries further detail Josephine's frustration with the nanny's constant surveillance, prompting her to poison the hot chocolate with cyanide. She anticipates the nanny drinking the leftovers. Sophia continues reading, disclosing that Josephine copied the handwriting of both Mr. Brown and Brenda. Josephine admits to cutting the treehouse rope, placing a knife in Mr. Brown's room, and framing Brenda and Mr. Brown. Sophia then reveals that Lady Edith has read the diary and understands the extent of Josephine's actions. Lady Edith leaves a note in Charles's car, confessing to being the murderer. She discloses her plan to end both her and Josephine's lives, unwilling to let the criminal-minded Josephine go to jail or roam freely in the world. As Charles attempts to catch up with them, Edith's car veers into a ditch, resulting in the demise of both Edith and Josephine. The end. Thank you for watching. To watch more video like this, click on the videos on your screen, and don't forget to let me know how you feel about today's video in the comments down below. And at last I will say stay safe and stay healthy. See you next videos.